Welcome to the Homestretch podcast. We interview athletes and just amazing people, hear them tell their stories of overcoming and achieving success, so we could really learn what it takes to get to that level. This evening, we have another special guest interviewing Marques Ogden. How you doing, Marques? Thanks for joining me.
How you doing, sir? Thanks for having me on.
Not bad, not bad. And so we were just recently introduced to each other, and you're actually my first non-track and field guest. I didn't want to be limited to just track because there are many people out there who have amazing stories of overcoming adversity. And I want to hear from everybody. You know, we can learn from everybody. And you have a special story. And I'm glad, you were able to join me tonight so I can really just have you hear it from you directly. So,
appreciate it, man.
Yeah. So a little bit about your background for those who aren't familiar with you. You played football for a number of years. You played for the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Baltimore Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, and the Tennessee Titans. You're currently a public speaker and author. You wrote a book called Sleepless, The NFL, A Business and Family. And you also work with the National Youth Football Organization, teaching the fundamentals of football to the youth. So you're doing a lot of things. And so let's start with the sports piece really quickly. Because making it to NFL is amazing. I mean, that in itself is, I forgot what the percentage is.
It's something like 0.0015 or something like that. It's real hard. It's real hard.
So tell us how you become part of that 0.015%. Where did that start?
So that for me actually really didn't start until college. I got a full scholarship offer to Howard University. From Howard University, I was drafted in the National Football League. I'm actually the first, and I'm still today, the only offensive lineman ever drafted from Howard University to the National Football League, which is a great honor. Going to the Mecca. I'm actually from Washington, D.C., so going to Howard, staying home was amazing. Got to play great football for the Bison. My father was also a Howard Bison football player and graduate, so carried on the bloodline there at the university, which was amazing. And, for me, man, it was just an awesome experience, like being, at the Mecca, being with some great people like Chadwick Boseman was at college when I was at college. Felicia Rashad was a teacher when I was there in the drama department. So for me, man, it was just phenomenal. But it didn't really start until my last year of college, where people told me I was in people's draft boards and draft books. And then I talked to my brother, who was already in the NFL at that time with the Ravens. He gave me some advice and all that. And then it ended up working out, man. I got drafted in the National Football League again in 2003 out of Howard University.
Oh man, so it kind of ran in the blood a little bit because you said your brother as well, and so it wasn't a dream for you from the beginning. How did you get started in football when you were younger?
So for me, man, it wasn't a dream because I was a good football player in high school, average at best. I got decent my senior year. I was in a really tough football conference. A lot of great players went to the National Football League from my conference of seniors in my entire league. So for me, it wasn't something growing up young and all that kind of stuff that I was looking to do. But once I got to college and started playing, this is fun and all that. But then I said right before that last year, it really became an opportunity that I saw to go after. Before that, man, I was into being an investment banker. I worked for Merrill Lynch, and I interned while I was in college in their DC office in the stocks and bonds room. And I enjoyed that, learn about, the business and finance. So that was really my area. Okay.
No, that's pretty cool. And so you're in college, you're starting to see this possibility of you going to the league. You're hearing, man, I have this opportunity. And so what happens then?
So from there, going to my last year, I end up, we got a strength coach, thank goodness, that year. He and I are still very good friends to this day. Worked hard, had a great senior year, got a great agent who was my brother's agent. And then I ended up going to the Hula Bowl, which is an all-star game over in Maui. Went over there, played well against guys from like Florida State, Rice, Texas, North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Miami, Notre Dame, USC, the best of the best. Coming out of college. And from there, I was, it really improved my draft position. And next thing you know, I got drafted in 2003.
Yeah, I can't imagine how exciting that is, going to the league. So at this point, what's going through your head? You're going to the NFL, it wasn't necessarily the first thing on your list. You were more into finance, but it's happening. So now you're in there. So what's going through your head at this point?
So then, man, I got to training camp, and thank goodness I had some really great veterans on the O line and the D line. We were an older team. We had a rookie head coach in Jack Del Rio, who's now the defensive coordinator for the Washington football team. And Jack was a great coach. He was a great leader, a great player in the NFL himself. So he talks a lot about discipline, a lot about work ethic, a lot about showing up, a lot about having the right mindset. As a result of that, we ended up, having a really good nucleus of guys. We didn't have a great season my rookie year, but we had a great group of guys. And the way in which I was able to endure and make it through a training camp, make a roster, and know that I could play the game at a high level gave me a lot of confidence going into my second year. And things were going really well. And, but like anything else, man, life changed. You had some things happen with coaching staffs. And then I ended up going to Baltimore, which was amazing, playing with my brother. That was a lot of fun. And we had another coaching staff change. My line coach ended up leaving and because he didn't get the OC job. Then I went to Buffalo, had a great career there. That was going really, really well. Then we ended up having where our head coach got fired and new staff came in. And then I ended up having some injuries and then going to play in Tennessee after my father passed away. And then I had a back injury and, that was that. So again, football was amazing. A lot of highs, a lot of lows, a lot of great guys, a lot of great teammates, a lot of great games I played against, a lot of great people in general, just a real strong, sense of brotherhood. I talked to a lot of NFL guys today that I played either with, against, battled with. And it's just great to have that strong sense of brotherhood because really and truly, that's what I've utilized to help build my company today after going through a Chapter 7 bankruptcy in 2013 after I made a really bad mistake in my construction business.
Yes, we're definitely going to get into that. But I want to stick here a little bit because, you mentioned a lot of things that I like to emphasize, all those principles that you learned playing football. I think a lot of times folks who aren't in sports don't really get that. Like you said, your coach taught, showing up and a lot of different values. How did you say at that point in your life that impacted you, learning those lessons and those principles?
It was everything because it taught me that football was more than a game just off your athletic ability. It taught me more that football was not just about, how great you are, how much you lift, how fast you run. It's more about the mental aspect of it. It's more about the accountability of it, of being a teammate. Football is a team sport. If 5 guys up front don't do their job, the running back, the quarterback's not going to have a good day. If the 4 guys on the other side of the ball don't have a good job, have a good day, it puts pressure on those 4 guys in the secondary and the linebackers to do their job extra hard and extra well. And these are all moving parts of life. When you get into teamwork, get into marriage, relationships, get into being a father, a parent, all these different moving parts play a huge role. So for me, football was a lot about life and how to live it and how to do it the correct way and not just go through life half-assed and not give it all you got. So it was very important I learned that at a young age, and it helped me to be who I am today after having to rebound after my lost construction business.
Yes, and you mentioned enduring in training camp. What part of playing football do you feel like you really experienced having to endure throughout your professional career?
Oh, absolute training camp. Because training camp, when I was there, it was, double pads pretty much every day. It was lifting, running. It was, we were hitting each other, for 2-3 hours a day in practice and outside in, 100, 105, 110 degree heat, having to endure a lot of mental stress, a lot of physical stress. Then on top of that, learn your plays, not get so tired you can't perform. Training camp, today is not the same because they're only allowed a certain amount of padded practices. Nobody does double practices anymore like we used to do. They don't have practice for very long. They don't have practice like in the afternoons. Most people practice in the morning now where it's not too hot.
Yeah, so you're from the old school, the gladiator. You sound like the gladiator days.
That's what it was, man. I mean, now I'm not like the guys from the 50s and the 60s where they didn't have like, no helmets or leather helmets, but Yeah, we had a different game of football, man. Like, there was no rules about practicing. There was no rules about, about wearing pads, so many times, in a year. We didn't have any of that. It was just, gladiator, eat gladiator, go out there and either kill or be killed. I mean, that was football. I mean, it's still like that today to a degree in the games, but in practice, it's not the same way.
Yeah, I could say I'm from the old school too. I'm from the Caribbean. And so track was, we training in the rainforest, out in the heat, all kind of crazy stuff that, these days you probably can't do much of. So I get what you mean. Absolutely. And so you had your professional career in NFL. And at some point when you're retiring, you're deciding to branch out and start a business.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Okay. I got to construction. I built from the ground up, started ground zero, no employees, no nothing. I built a $15 million a year business by year 4. And I had at the height of our business, I had about 100 employees. And we were the largest African-American subcontractor in the city of Baltimore and the state of Maryland. But unfortunately, the mistake I made was I developed an ego, and I have an acronym for ego: exaggerated, glorified opinions. I always thought I was better than what I was. I always chased glory, and I always had to have the last word. And no matter if I was right or wrong, I always wanted to state my opinion. And as a result of that, I drove away some really good people in my organization. I lost a lot of great employees. That compiled with a big job that I took on that I spent about $2.5 to $3 million in 90 days. And I was not paid by the developer and contractor for my work. There was what I thought was change order work, what I was told was change order work. Once they denied my change order, I filed a Chapter 7 complete bankruptcy, and I lost everything. Home foreclosed on, both cars repossessed, no money, no credit, everything was gone. And I ended up moving to Raleigh, North Carolina with only $400 to my name, and that's all I had left. And I had to start my life completely over again.
Whoa. Yeah, that's man, where do I even start with that? That's something. You built this business. I think a lot of people, when they hear you played in the NFL, it's like you reached the highest of the high. You're rich, you're famous, you're NFL player. I think people think that's it. You've achieved it. And I think we both know, there's more to life than that. There's life after that. And some people, they spend their money recklessly, but you made it a business investment, and it just went the wrong way. Would you consider that being the most difficult obstacle that you've had to deal with in life?
No, because what led me to that was I had a really bad problem with playing the victim. And then when I was I was down here, I had a job at Merrill Lynch, lost that job, got a job the next day, lost that job 5 days later. I was fired 2 times in the same week. And then I took a job as a custodian in 2013, September, making $8.25 an hour, working from 10 p.m. till 5 a.m. And I had what's called my rock bottom moment, which was my spoiled milk moment, where somebody's trash and rotten meat and banana peel and nasty protruding garbage cover my body, my skin, and my clothes. And that was my wake up rock bottom moment that I told myself, either I'm going to get out of the situation and get my life back on track, or I'm going to sit right here for the rest of my life, always playing the victim, always blaming other people for my faults and my failures. And that was the hard thing. I had to get up and get off the curb. But once I did that, then at least I had accountability in my life, and that's when my life got better.
That's interesting. So you're saying you had a victim mentality?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When I moved down to Raleigh after losing everything, yep, I sure did.
You blamed everything and everyone else for your situations?
Yep.
Oh, that's interesting. And did you realize that? And you didn't realize this while you were playing football?
No, because football had nothing to do with it. When I was playing football, my life was fine. But this was after football. This was after my career. And this was after all that. So my construction company was totally after, my experience in the NFL.
Yeah. And so once you overcame that, once you hit that rock bottom, I think all of us have had some type of experience like that. Mine wasn't quite like that, but I get it. You're like, how did I get to this point? I'm here with trash on me, And, I'm somebody who accomplished something amazing in my life. And so you got to that point and you're like, okay, what then? You're at the low point, and what from there?
So I came home that morning and I wrote down my 3 biggest strengths, and I computed that in my head, and I said, let's go ahead and try to be a keynote speaker. I was listening to a lot of audio tapes and things like that while I was working as a custodian and a janitor in downtown Raleigh. I said, this should be great. I'm a great speaker. I'm a great communicator, and I like to help people. I'm a storyteller. So that's what I did. I launched my career in September 2013, and for the first 2.5 years, not one paid job. Got my first paid job in April 2016 for Miller Mock College. And then I learned a little bit more about the business, did a few more jobs, learned some more about the business, got a few more jobs. And then, just kept working on my craft, kept perfecting my craft. And then, so now today, in the last 5 years, I've worked for 25 Fortune 500 companies as a speaker, being 25 on Wednesday when I speak for Molson Coors Beverage Company to their emerging leaders. And, I've worked for the NFL. I've worked for, colleges and universities. I've worked for, big organizations, energy companies, technology, financial planning, insurance, you name it. And I've written 2 best-selling books, and I'm a coach and a consultant and all these other things. But I'm also the guy that started out, like I said, I tell everybody I started out, almost 7.5 years ago, almost 8 years ago now, with this vision. And I was making $8 an hour. Nobody hired me. Nobody wants to talk to me. Nobody wants to give me a chance. So, I'm the guy that's been through a lot to get where I'm at today.
Yeah, it sounds like it, but it also sounds like you're resilient, and it's probably the football piece right there, because it sounds like no matter, what you're dealing with, you're still pushing through it.
Right.
I mean, like I said, making it to the league, starting your own business, a multi-million-dollar business. And then even, I read an interview that you did that talked about what you really went through after your business collapsed, because like I said, I think people sometimes hear the superficial, but they don't really get like, this is your life. This is your business. You went bankrupt, you had your home foreclosed, and also went into depression. And to rebound that and to use your experiences to tell a story, because that's what you're doing as a speaker. You're saying, hey, look, this is what I've been through. This is how I overcame it. This is how I became successful. And these are the tools that you can use to do the same thing. And you're sharing that story. But man, that's something, I'm just starting my own business. And so I know how much I'm putting into it. And when I'm thinking about the fact that you got to the point where, like you said, a $15 million business, and to have that disappear, essentially, that's tough.
It sure did. It took me 5.5 years to build it. It took me 90 days to lose it.
Yes, exactly. Did you have, now starting that business, because I'm curious, how did you get into that? What resources did you have or help did you have to get started with your business?
I took a program I took a program through the NFL on development and construction, but then I met my business partner at an event, and then I went to an event where Congressman Elijah Cummings was speaking. He was alive at Morgan State, and I met him, and I decided to pursue that, and had some great research with the city of Baltimore, the state of Maryland, and they were great. I built the business with everybody's help. But problem I had was when the business got successful, I lost my humble disposition because I believed I was the best and I should always have everything that I want. And that's not the case. And eventually God giveth, he can take it away. And that's exactly what he did. And, I ended up losing everything because I didn't learn how to value anything. And that's really was my mistake. And, I tell everybody now, I just signed a new client on the day. And I told her, you're hiring me. Don't feel sorry for my story. Learn from my story. Don't feel bad for me, because I don't feel bad for myself anymore. I used to, but I don't anymore because it's my story. And just learn from me so you don't end up like me. If I can keep you from ending up like me, home foreclosure, both cars being repossessed by the repo man on the same day, the bank having basically $400 in it, no credit cards, no credit, and having to start over from ground zero, then that's what I'm going to try to do.
And Yeah, it almost sounds like you're attributing that to pride and ego.
Oh
Like
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
I
My
told,
ego,
oh, sorry about that. Go ahead.
no. I said my ego crushed me. With
Yeah,
my construction company, my ego was my biggest enemy.
that's a story we don't talk about enough either, I think, because, I want the story told on how to become successful so folks in our community can understand what it takes. But I think there also needs to be a conversation of what happens when you are successful, because this happens far too often. People get to the pinnacle and then it's like, all right, I'm here. And all of that chip on your shoulder, that burden, that drive that got you there, and some of that humility or being that underdog, whatever it was that got you there. Sometimes when you get there, you get a little bit too high on yourself. Like, oh, I'm the man, I'm the best. I did it. Because I'm this good, I must be right. I must be more right than you. And you kind of lose that ability to listen. I've seen it a few times. Yeah.
Dude, that was my life, man. Made a bunch of money and thought I was Mr. Everything, and pow, I got in a real bad place. I made some real bad decisions, and everything I worked hard for was gone and taken from me in 90 days, and nobody to blame but myself.
Yeah, but now you're speaking, and it shows that this is life, ebbs and flows, and so you recovered from that, and you're on to this phase in your life. And piece of that, I want to go back because I read that part of what helped you recover was this Gene Upshaw Players Assistance Trust Fund.
Yep, correct.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I don't feel like that's something that's commonly known or heard of, or at least I've never heard of it.
It's a program where retired NFL players can go and get financial assistance if you can prove hardship. Mm-hmm. They review your tax returns, your bank statements, look at different any type of accounts you have, assets you have, and determine if you are in dire financial strait. If the answer is yes, then you go before a board and they can approve you. They don't give you the money. They pay it directly to your creditors. And that's what happened to me. They sent the money to my creditors. As a result of that, I got my debts eradicated, and I was able to, well, not eradicated. I was able to take, 4 months of my bills that I had coming up, home, car, things of that nature, insurance, and not have to pay them because the NFL Gene Upshaw Trust Fund paid it directly.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go ahead and ask some questions as to why we don't have that in track and field. I mean,
I don't know, man. It actually started in 2013. So the year I went bankrupt, it had just launched. So that was definitely great timing, because if I went bankrupt the year before that, they did not have anything like that to take care of players. That came in as a result of the new CBA.
I see. Yeah, no, that sounds like a great program. I mean, helped you get on your feet. We need that in track and field, folks, for sure. I mean, and track doesn't pay that much. So once you pull your hamstring, you could be working at Walmart, still trying to be a pro track athlete. I think at times like those, something like that will be beneficial. So I'm going to definitely bring that up in conversation with some track people.
Awesome.
And so could you tell us a little bit about your book?
Yeah, I have. So I have two books. I have Sleepless Nights, which is my autobiography. And then we have The Success Cycle, which is still out today. The Success Cycle, you can get that on Amazon. You can get that on Barnes & Noble online. You can get it in Barnes & Noble's bookstores all across the country in the business section. And it's just a great book. It talks about ambition, drive, hard work. And it also focuses on what you need to do in order to get your life where you want it to be. So it's really impactful, and it's been a great way for us to get out in front of different audiences, and I'm really excited about it. It's been out now for over 2 years, but it's one of those books that doesn't go out of style, and people really enjoy reading it. So it's a great short read. Yeah.
No. Definitely have to take a look. I'm going to check it out myself. I'm going to go get me a copy. Absolutely. And so what piece of advice would you have? Because the folks who tune into this podcast, while many of them are sports fans and they want to hear the story of sports people, I do think that many of them are trying to get the keys. How do I get from where I'm at to somewhere else? How do I become, how do I become, whether it is an entrepreneur, how do I start my own business? How do I reach a certain level of success? How do I overcome the obstacles that seem to be standing in my way at every step of the turn? So I think hearing these stories, it helps folks to piece that together. And so what piece of advice would you have for someone who is maybe struggling? They want to be successful, but they don't really know how to go about it.
Do 3 things to outperform. Do 3 things to always beat and or stay ahead of your competition. Outpace them, which means just show up and be committed. Outsmart them, create a better tactical strategy and strategic plan and execute it. And then outperform them. When you're on stage or you're at the dance floor or you're, whatever the case may be, you're on the gridiron, you're on the hardwood floor, doesn't matter where you are. The boardroom, outdo your competition when it's time to shine. So outpace, outsmart, outperform. If you do those 3 things, no matter what, you can go from where you are to where you want to be.
That's an important piece right there. You make it about competition. And I think in today's society, for some reason, there's been a shift away from competition, as if competition is a negative thing because it puts you in an uncomfortable kind of state. But I'm with you. When I talk about the same thing, success, I'm like, find out the qualifications of your peers. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, find out what your peers have, your would-be peers have, and gain all of those qualifications and then some, because you have to be competitive. So it is competition. I like that. I like that point. And so it sounds like some of that energy as an athlete, that's how you approach life as well, with that competitive kind of energy.
Correct.
Yeah, you're not just passively going through things. I know you said you had to step away for a little bit. I don't know how much more time you have. I'd love to ask you a couple more questions. Let me know.
Yeah. You guys a couple more before I go. Sure, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Outpace, outsmart. What was the next one? Outperform. Okay. No, perfect. So and that is how you go about everything. I'm assuming in your previous business, that is how you operated. It was competitive.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And now,
always, all day, always. Yep.
And the same thing as a speaker. And so part of being competitive is working on yourself, improving yourself. Mm-hmm. So what things do you do to continuously improve at your craft?
Well, I'm always watching how I speak because that is my job as a speaker. I'm always watching how I put stuff out on social media because I'm always the person that gets people to engage me through LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. Mm-hmm. I'm also very conscious of just, when I talk to my coaching clients, making sure that, it's all on the same page as far as, our strategy, our execution and all that kind of stuff. So it's very focused in that regard to how to get things done to move forward, towards my goals in that light.
Mm-hmm. No, excellent. And I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier when you talked about the victim mindset, because I think that's a common theme that we hear just in the world. You hear about people with a victim mentality. I've seen it, of course, folks who just make excuses for everything. I don't know if this is a loaded question. What do you think contributes to that type of mentality, and how do you overcome that?
Well, what contributes to it is that you're given everything, or you've never had to work for anything, and you expect everything just to go your way. And the only way you can get it out or get rid of it is you have to have a reality check. And I do what I call a risk to reward analysis, or what I call a risk to reward cost analysis. That what are you risking if you don't lose the attitude or lose the ego? And what rewards could you possibly not get as a result of that? So it's just a risk to reward cost analysis I look at. If I keep doing what I'm doing, what am I risking? What could I be giving up on the reward side? If I don't change, I could have a real big problem. So that's kind of how I go about it. But it starts with people have to stop expecting to always have what they want, because that's not the case. That's just not the way life was designed to be.
No, you have to go get what you want. You have to earn what you want. You have to work for it. Absolutely.
All day, every day.
And that's why you're able to overcome, because you're not just receiving handouts. You're going after it. even if it's resources, you're going after it to get those resources because they're there and you're taking advantage of them to go ahead and that's how you got out of that funk. You found what was available and went after it. So no, absolutely. As a men's head coach, this is, kind of what I do as I get high schoolers and I try to prepare them to be the men that they're going to be in the real world. And you do learn a few lessons in these 4 to 5 years of college. You learn that, mommy isn't going to be there to help you all the time and to say, okay, this is going to be okay. You're going to run into situations and you have to figure out, how you're going to address them and where you're going to go. And I would say, you're in the game. You're either going to make the decisions or someone's going to make them for you. That's kind of just how it is. Whether you want to play or not, those decisions are being made.
Very, very true.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
Now, it's me, man, we have a podcast that's doing very, very well called the Lev Marques Show. And it's in the top 5. It's in the top 5% most globally downloaded and listened to after only being out for 8 weeks. And, we have some fantastic sponsors. And we're also working on some online products to create the residual income to get things going in that regard. So that's what's next for us, is really focusing on the podcast, getting some great, amazing guests on, and then creating the online courses to help, create residual income to help people on a mass scale.
Yes. What was the name of could you say the name of the podcast one more time?
Yeah, sure. It's called The Lev, L-E-V, and Marques, M-A-R-Q-U-E-S Show. The Lev and Marques Show.
Okay, no, we'll definitely, folks, check it out. Absolutely. And I'm assuming it's on YouTube. Is it on?
Yeah, YouTube, Apple,
iTunes,
Spotify, Stitcher, and Google and iHeart.
Perfect. No, well, hey, look, I love your story. It's a success story. It's a story of overcoming, getting to the top, coming back down and not giving up and staying down there and pushing. And I think that's life. It isn't just like life is a constant race or multiple races. You get to the finish line of one race and there's a whole nother obstacle that you have to overcome. And so I love hearing these stories because, I think it's positive reinforcement, especially to what I think you hear in society. And I hate to continuously go back to that, but as a speaker that there's a reason why you're out here speaking. There's something that you're giving to people that they need, that they're not getting. And I hear that all the time in the sports world, track world, football world. It's part of it. You get it. If you're in those worlds, you're going to get this all the time. This motivation, this inspiration from somebody, because that's how you win. There's no winning without that piece. But, we lose that in the real world. We don't have coaches. We don't have, people to motivate us and to tell us, hey, look, yeah, it was a bad day today, but tomorrow's another day. So what are you going to do about it? You're going to cry about yesterday, or are you going to get out there tomorrow and try to compete and try to win? And so I love, I'm glad that you're out here being successful and showing us how to do it. And I'm glad you're out here speaking about it because I do think it's important. That's even why I wanted you on here. I do think it's important. So I'll be supporting you. I'm going to check out your books and check out the podcast for sure. And,
yeah, man, absolutely. And when it comes out, we can kind of go from there and we can do some things together. And I can check out your stuff and support you. So, man, let's continue just to push forward, man. We can support each other and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, no, I definitely would appreciate it. Absolutely. So if you have any last tidbits to leave our viewers, feel free.
I'll just put it like this, man. You have to believe it before you see it. If you don't believe in yourself, don't expect anybody else to.
If you don't believe in yourself, don't expect anyone else to.
Got it.
Marques Ogden, I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on. Our folks can find you on what are your social media handles?
Yes, it's at Marques Ogden. It's Instagram. Marques Ogden's LinkedIn. Marques Ogden's Facebook, and at Marques_Ogden is Twitter.
All right. Wonderful. So we will be following and supporting. I appreciate you coming on, brother. And I wish you all the best.
Appreciate it, bro. Thanks for having me on, man. Have a good one.
You as well.